Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination, but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Got my bags packed and on a roll. I'm heading out there and I'm ready to go. I'm looking real good in my passport photo. Oh, no.
Amateur Traveler episode 730. Today the Amateur Traveler talks about temples and floating markets, street food and palaces, rooftop bars, and more street food as we go to Bangkok, Thailand. Welcome to the Amateur Traveler. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Let's talk about Bangkok. I'd like to welcome back to the show Michael Desrosiers to the podcast, and we're going to talk again about Thailand, and this time we're going to talk about Bangkok. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Well, and I say welcome back. Usually when I'm saying that to somebody, it's like, well, they haven't been on in 10 years, and people may or may not remember. He was on just like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I don't remember when it was when we talked about Kanchanaburi. And
after the podcast, you and I just kind of chatted for a while, and we realized that you hadn't done a show about Bangkok yet. And we were just sharing our experiences of Bangkok, and we were like, let's talk about Bangkok.
Yeah, and I have been to Bangkok 3 times, most recently, according to the T-shirt I'm wearing, 2016 with a group of travelers for the Amateur Traveler Cambodia trip. And then for those who may not have just heard you on the show, you live in Bangkok and have lived there for 7 years?
7 years. That's right, yeah, 2013.
And we won't do the whole story. People can listen to that story, but it was adventure that brought you there and love that kept you there, I think would be the fair way to say.
That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
And a love for Bangkok as well. So why should someone go to Bangkok, Thailand?
Bangkok, it's one of the world's great cities, I think. And a lot of people come through Bangkok. Generally, if you're traveling in Southeast Asia, you'll probably go through Bangkok. It's one of the busiest airports in the world, but a lot of people just spend a couple days, maybe, and then go off to Vietnam or Cambodia.
And that's just sitting in traffic.
Yeah, right. Right. But the city itself has a lot to see, and I feel like even though it's a very visited city, I feel like it's kind of overlooked in favor of a lot of other places, not only in Southeast Asia, but a lot of other places in Thailand, too. Mm-hmm. Everyone comes to Thailand and they say, oh, I wasn't crazy about Bangkok, but I love Chiang Mai, or I love the South.
Or
Phuket, right. But part of that is because people don't really get the chance to experience the real Bangkok. Because it's a great city. I love living here, and I feel like it's a city you can never truly be bored in. There's a million things to do and see all the time, and it's full of history and amazing food, amazing things to see. It's kind of a chaotic city, sure, but I think that you'll have an experience, a travel experience, beyond what you'll find in a lot of other major world cities.
Well, and you say chaotic, and I think I shared this on the show that we did, or we talked about it afterwards, that when I first went to Bangkok, which wasn't all that long ago, maybe 8 years ago or something like that, the first trip that I did there, I was really surprised my wife did not want to come with me. Why do you not want to come to Bangkok? I feel like I said, I feel like you're picturing the wrong thing. What are you picturing? She said, I'm feeling like it will be hot, humid, and chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. No, all right. Well, you're picturing the correct thing. And that is a little bit of Bangkok. And yet I have fallen in love with the city too.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons I want to do this. What kind of itinerary are you going to recommend for us for Bangkok?
When you first get here, there are some things that you just have to see.
Mm-hmm.
No matter if you're here for 2 days or if you're here for 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, one of the main things that you're going to want to see are the temples. That's really what brings a lot of people here, the temples and the palaces.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bangkok, well, it's surprisingly not a very old city, actually. It was founded in 1782, I think, after the fall of Ayutthaya, which was the previous capital, and it was already in existence. It was a small fishing village called Bangkok. But they moved the capital there after Ayutthaya was conquered. They changed the name to Krung Thep. It's actually the longest place name in the world, and I have the English translation here. It says, the city of angels, the great city of immortals, magnificent city of the 9 gems, seat of the king, city of royal palaces, homes of gods incarnate, erected by Vishvakarman at Indra's behest. So that's why everybody calls it Bangkok, because that's just too much to say. But it's not a very old city. A lot of the sites that you're going to see are dating from the late 1700s onwards.
Well, and much of the city is even newer than that because it has grown a lot in my lifetime.
Absolutely. It's grown a lot since I've been here in 7 years. But that being said, some of the first things that you really have to see are the temples and the palaces.
Okay.
And there's over 400 temples just in Bangkok.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, so it's impossible to see all of them, of course, but since about 95% of the population of Thailand is Buddhist, it's just a huge part of life. Every neighborhood has a temple. So we're obviously not going to list all of them. But in Thailand, there's a sort of, I guess you could call it kind of a ritual or a tradition, where if you visit 9 temples, it's considered to be good luck. 9 is a lucky number in Thailand. So I've chosen my favorite 9 temples that I thought I'd share with you guys. The first one is Wat Prakao, which is the Temple of the Emerald Buddha at the Grand Palace.
Okay.
And if you're only going to go to one place in Bangkok, that's probably where you're going to end up going. It's considered to be the most important temple in Thailand. The Emerald Buddha is sort of the central Buddhist icon in Thai culture.
Okay.
And it's located inside the grounds of the Grand Palace, so you can visit that as well.
Now, this is by far not the largest Buddha in
it's
Bangkok,
disappointingly
nor even in
small
the palace.
Right. Yeah, you might have this image of this impressive figure. It's not important because it's big, it's just important because it's got historical and cultural significance. It's fairly small, actually. The Emerald Buddha is pretty cool. It's got 3 outfits that correspond to the 3 traditional seasons. The rainy season,
I did not know that. Okay.
The hot season, and the winter. And 3 times a year, there's this religious ceremony where the king of Thailand sort of ceremonially changes the robes of the Buddha image. And only the king is allowed to touch the Emerald Buddha. So it's a really important day. And so that happens 3 times a year, sort of marking the changing of the season.
Okay.
It's always crowded.
Yeah.
So I would recommend getting there early. It's always full of tourists and tour buses. It's crowded. It's chaotic. You do have to buy an entry ticket to this temple because it's sort of a major tourist attraction.
Now,
it's like
that's
$15.
in the palace one, isn't it? Or is it separate from
Yes,
that?
it is.
Okay,
it is.
that's what I thought.
It is included, right? But it's great to see, and it's a really cool place to sort of get your first look at Thai culture.
Okay.
The walls surrounding the temple are painted in murals that show some Thai traditional stories, and it's a great place to begin. And I think that everybody has to go to the Grand Palace. If you're super jet lagged, you might want to wait a day or two because it can be a bit overwhelming with the crowds and the heat. But definitely go there to start out.
Okay. So that's one.
Right next door to that is Wat Po, the Temple of the Reclining Buddha.
Much larger.
It definitely is. It is not
Too big
right.
to fit in the building, and therefore the Buddha had to lie down.
Right, and too big almost to even fit in a photograph. It's very difficult to take a picture of it.
That is true.
Yeah, but the reclining Buddha is representing Buddha achieving nirvana. So it's sort of a depiction of Buddha at his death.
Okay.
And it's a really great statue. It's probably one of the more iconic sites in Bangkok. But also, Wat Po is famous for a traditional Thai massage school. So if you've been walking around all day and your feet are tired, you can stop in at the massage school and you can get a traditional Thai massage.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you say Wat Po. Wat is always temple. So all of these are going to have Wat in them.
Yes, Wat means temple.
Well, most of them.
Across the river is Wat Arun, which means the Temple of the Dawn. It's another really iconic temple. It has this sort of almost Khmer-style spire that points up into the sky, and it's covered in broken pottery.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I really like the look of Wateroo. Unfortunately, I saw it when it was covered with scaffolding when I was there.
They cleaned it. They cleaned it a few years ago.
Because it had all sorts of vines and such on it when I was there still.
Yes. When I first arrived in Thailand, I thought that Wat Arun was just a gray stone construction. And then they covered it in scaffolding for about a year. And then when they revealed it, I was like, wow, Wat Arun is actually white. It was just really dirty. It had gotten kind of smoggy and like you said, covered in plants and things. But now it's beautiful. The white and blue porcelain really stands out. It's a beautiful temple.
Well, and I see them use that temple on a lot of different official things representing Bangkok, representing Thailand.
It's very iconic.
You've probably seen a picture of it. And
That's
it's
right,
quite beautiful sitting there on the river.
Yes.
Obviously, that begs the question then, or the mention that Bangkok is situated on a large river.
Yes, the Chao Phraya River. And if you're traveling between these temples, you can use the river boat service. There's something called the Orange Flag boat that's kind of like a river bus, I guess. There's also plenty of ferries that cross back and forth for just a few baht, so just basically a few cents. The river's a great way to get around, and as you're sailing down the river on the boats, you can see all these temples, or most of these temples, because they're mostly built along the river.
We actually used, for one whole day in the city, just used one of the river passes you could get, and only saw everything you could walk to from the boat on the river, on both sides of the river.
Yeah.
And it was a fabulous day. I've been meaning to write a blog post about it for 4 years. Apparently, I will never get around to it. But it was a wonderful day to see Bangkok, especially on a hot day, because just a little cooler on the river, I think, than someplace else is in the city.
At least you get that breeze.
Exactly.
Yeah. Worth noting that Bangkok is hot all year round. It's kind of unavoidable.
Okay, that's 3 by my count? Or
That's right, that's 3.
Okay.
Number 4 is Wat Saket, the Temple of the Golden Mount, which is actually my favorite place in Bangkok to go. I love it. It's kind of different from the rest of the temples. There's this temple kind of built on top of sort of an artificial hill.
This is the one downtown.
Yeah, it's sort of in the old town.
Yeah.
And as you visit it, you sort of spiral your way up this hill, and you ring bells along the way, and when you get to the top, you can get some of the best views across Bangkok. Some of the absolute best views in the city, and again, a cool breeze, which is part of the reason maybe that I like it so much. I just think it's really pretty up there. Very beautiful, very scenic.
Okay.
Number 5 is Wat Mangkon, which is the Chinese temple in Thailand. It's sort of the center of Chinese Buddhism.
Ah, okay.
And it's in Chinatown. It's a really historic temple in Chinatown. They do a lot of festivals and events on the Chinese holidays. Bangkok has the world's biggest Chinatown. And it's a little bit different from like Chinatown in Los Angeles or New York, because here in Thailand, the Thai Chinese population is a really big population, and it kind of has a unique culture that's a bit different from Thai culture and a bit different from Chinese culture.
Okay.
And Wat Mangkon is sort of the center of that. And it's a really beautiful temple. It's completely different from the Thai-style temples. This is more the Chinese-style temple that's more built of wood and has a lot of red and gold in it. Very, very cool to visit as well.
Okay.
Number 6 is Wat Trayamit, the Temple of the Golden Buddha.
Okay.
It's also nearby. It's near Chinatown. It's got the Chinese Thai Heritage Museum. So if you're interested in learning about that Chinese Thai culture, they've got a great museum there. This is the world's largest solid golden Buddha statue. And it has a great story. A couple hundred years ago, they had this clay Buddha, and it was really relatively unimportant. And one day they were trying to move it, and somebody dropped it, and it cracked. And they found this golden statue inside of it. And they don't know where it came from. They don't know how old it is. They just found it inside of this other statue. It was kind of seen as like a holy sign because it was found, I think, on like the 2500th anniversary of Buddha's enlightenment, or around that year.
Okay.
So it's a really important place in Thailand. But it's a cool statue. It's amazing. It's big. It's much bigger than life size, and it's solid gold. Number 7, if you're sort of in the downtown shopping area, especially near the shopping malls like Siam Paragon or Central World, which are amazing, definitely worth visiting as well if you're into shopping, there's a temple called Wat Patum Wanaram, and it's great because it is just right there in the middle of downtown. And if you have been kind of going around the shopping district and you're really tired, it's kind of a nice area to walk through. It's very quiet, very peaceful. There's sort of an artificial jungle, sort of like a garden. And I find it to be a really peaceful place in the middle of kind of a busy and hectic downtown area.
Okay.
Number 8, Wat Bincha Mabopit, or Wat Bincha, as most people call it. It's maybe the quintessential Thai temple. It's called the Marble Temple. Again, really beautiful. It's sort of located in the government district, the Dusit neighborhood. It's famous for having some stained glass, which is really unique in Thai temples. You don't see a lot of stained glass in Buddhist architecture. And the last one is Wat Pak Nam, or Wat Pak Nam, which is kind of a new addition to my list of most interesting temples. They're currently constructing one of the largest Buddha statues in the world. And I believe it's going to be the tallest seated Buddha made of pure bronze, I think.
Okay.
It's going to be like 226 feet tall. It's still partially under construction, but the head and the upper torso is finished. And it's constructed right alongside a canal. And so if you are taking a canal boat through the city, you can go past it. Definitely cool to see. And kind of a unique new addition to Thailand's skyline. So I think that within a couple years, it's going to be up there with Wat Arun as one of the quintessential symbols of the city.
Okay. You mentioned taking a canal boat.
Right.
And is that something you would like to recommend?
100%.
Good.
100%.
Because otherwise you would have been wrong.
Yeah. So Bangkok used to be called the Venice of the East because of all the canals that cross the city. And in a lot of ways, that's really still true. If you want to avoid most of the traffic, you can just go down to one of the canals, hop on one of the public boats, and just a few minutes later, you're all the way across town. It is so much fun. It's a bit wild to ride the canal boats. I don't know, how would you describe the experience? It's just fun, right?
Well, first of all, there's a couple different things when we say canal boats. There's the long boats,
right?
Which are very long, very narrow, very colorful, with an outboard motor in the back, and you can get tours in those, and those are particularly fun, I think. And then there are more ferries and such going up and down the river. So you were talking about the longboats, I think.
Yes, yeah,
okay.
the public longboats.
Okay.
They're kind of like buses, but they go really fast along the canals.
Well, and it's fun.
Yeah.
I did a canal tour at least once, a couple times in the canal boats or the fast boats, and it takes you to parts of the city you may not get to see if you just stay on the land too. So that was the other thing I enjoyed about it was it's also very picturesque. As somebody who likes to take pictures, it's just a wonderful experience. I thought it was great fun. And nothing in Thailand is that expensive, so I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't a problem.
Oh, it's like 50 cents or something for a one-way ticket. Yeah.
50 cents, that's like a quarter or a sixth the
That's a
cost of a
plate of
meal
pad
or something
thai.
like that. Yeah.
Right.
And we might as well talk about getting around all at the same time
Sure,
here,
yeah.
because you mentioned something about traffic, and I already made one jab at Bangkok about
Yeah.
traffic. And let me just put it in context, because I don't know if I've told this on the show before or not, and I may have told it to you last time or whatever. But I have actually, one of the only times in my life, and probably the only time in my life, I've been in a motorcade with police escort, was in Bangkok, because we were going to a speakers dinner for the conference I was at, the TBEX, the Travel Blogging Exchange Conference, the travel bloggers. And I was one of the speakers, and they were taking us to the speaker dinner, which was going to be with the mayor, the governor,
Right.
monkey mucks.
Like a big deal.
People
Yeah.
who were much more important than a bunch of travel bloggers. And so they wanted to give us this full experience. And so they put us in some cars and had some police escorts. And with a police escort, we literally sat in the same block of traffic for an hour.
Yeah.
And so getting around in Bangkok by car is not the most fun experience. We've mentioned by
No.
boat, but there's at least two other good ways to get around not getting
Yeah.
in a car.
There's two really good ways to get around, one really bad way to get around. I will say, if you want to get across the city, just take the public transportation.
Yes.
There's a SkyTrain and a subway.
Yep.
Both of them are great, and they've really extended them in the past about 3 or 4 years. Nowadays, they pretty much go everywhere you want to go.
And they're clean, fast, cheap. But other than that,
They are so clean, yeah. Right. This is not like a New York subway. It's a very, very clean and and comfortable trip. Honestly, that's the way I get around. I never drive here. I rarely take taxis. It's just, like you said, it's just kind of a waste of time when you can pretty much get anywhere
Yep.
using the metro system.
And it's easy to manage, I think, as a tourist.
Yes.
We should
yes.
say, because I've been in some metro systems that were more complicated for a non-native speaker, and I don't speak a word of Thai. I think,
No.
well, Wat. Hey, I know Wat is temple. There you go.
There
I
you
speak
go.
a word of
Right.
Thai.
Great. No, you're absolutely right. You can buy a one-day pass. You can even buy a reloadable card. That is probably the best thing to do. Will probably save you the most time and money. The staff there generally speak English, and there are also machines that you can just buy a ticket from really easily. So it's super convenient. That's the best way to get around by far, especially nowadays that they've really extended the lines and they're adding new lines all the time.
And I think the only advantage to the SkyTrain over the subway as far as the trip is the view.
Absolutely,
Both of
yeah.
them are going to get you there comfortably, fast, and cheap.
I would say the transportation I don't recommend are the tuk-tuks, which are the auto rickshaws.
Okay.
They are definitely fun, don't get me wrong. And they're an iconic part of Bangkok, but they're also really expensive. I think a lot of tourists are coming to Bangkok and they're going to think that these tuk-tuks are a cheap way to get around. They think, oh, this is how the locals get around. It's absolutely not. It's only for tourists. If you're
is
going
funny.
to take road transportation, stick to a metered cab. A metered cab is going to be a lot cheaper. A tuk-tuk is going to cost you a ton of money.
Huh.
It's not worth it.
Okay.
They're fun. I mean, maybe take it once. Take it once for the experience. But overall, I would say a metered cab is safer. It's air-conditioned. You know what price it's going to cost as soon as you see the meter.
Right.
With a tuk-tuk, you have to barter, and you're out in the open, you're going to be getting exhaust fumes in your face, and it's not quite as nice of a way to get around. Overall, I'd say just avoid the roads. It's just better not to.
Well, and it has a good transportation system. Excellent.
Right.
Where to next?
Where to next is the museums. I'm a big museum guy,
Okay.
and recently I've discovered the Thai Museum Pass. It's
Okay.
like $9. It's 300 baht. And once you buy it, you can get into pretty much any museum in Thailand for the next year. So if you're here as a tourist and you want to even see 2 or 3 museums, it's worth it. You can find it on the museum webpage, the National Museum website. And there's like 4 museums that I really want to recommend in Bangkok.
Okay.
The first, of course, is the National Museum. It's got a great collection of art and artifacts from all across not just Thailand, but Southeast Asia as a whole. The National Museum is built inside of an old palace that used to be the Viceroy's Palace. And so it's also in a really cool place if you're interested in architecture. Definitely worth seeing. There's a program called the National Museum Volunteers,
Okay.
and they offer free museum tours in, I think, English, German, and French.
Okay.
And I believe the tours themselves are free. You have to pay admission to the museum, but the tours themselves are free, and they're mostly done by expats who undergo like 6 months of training. So they know what they're talking about. And it's cool. So if you really want to kind of learn about the context of what you're looking at the museum, I would say check out one of their tours.
Okay.
Next is the Museum Siam.
So, and when you say Siam, we're talking about the same word that I would say Siam.
Oh, Siam, right. Siam.
The old name for Thailand.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
That one is not so much about Thai history as it is about Thai culture.
Okay.
So I like pairing these two together because the National Museum will give you the history, and the Museum Siam will give you sort of the culture.
Okay.
And both of them together kind of give you a great introductory picture of Thailand. Number 3 is the Jim Thompson House. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this guy. He was an American expat in Bangkok, and he sort of revitalized the silk industry.
Huh.
The silk industry had kind of been forgotten until the 1950s. He opened up a silk factory, and he sort of introduced it to the wider world. Jim Thompson was also a spy. He was in the OSS during the Second World War, stationed here in Southeast Asia.
And so the OSS is the American precursor to the CIA.
Right. He was stationed here in Southeast Asia during the war. He kind of fell in love with the culture in the region. He was also a trained architect, and he built this beautiful house that he made up of different traditional Thai-style wooden houses that he collected from all parts of the country, moved them to Bangkok, and kind of joined them together. And nowadays his house is a really cool museum. He was an art collector, and his house is a great museum. It's a wonderful collection of Southeast Asian art. Again, there's a tour in English, and it's another really good sort of introduction into what Thai culture and art is like. Jim Thompson, interestingly, though, he mysteriously disappeared in the 1960s. He was on holiday with his family in Malaysia, and I think it was actually on Easter Sunday. He went out for a walk and was never seen again. So there's all sorts of theories. Some people say that he was eaten by a tiger. Some people say that it was foul play because that was the heart of the Cold War, and of course he was a possibly not just former spy, but maybe still a spy at the time. It's not really known. But a really interesting guy and a very cool museum. And if you are interested in Thai silk, Jim Thompson silk is still seen as the highest quality, and it makes great souvenirs and gifts for people back home.
Okay.
And the last one is, well, it's called a museum, but it's a little bit more than that. It's called the Erawan Museum. It's kind of a part museum, part shrine, part art installation, like part park. I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It's this massive statue of Erawan, who is this three-headed elephant from Hindu mythology. And I'm not even sure quite how to describe it. It's an art museum dedicated to sort of religious art, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Made by this eccentric Thai artist. And it's just a fascinating place to visit. It's got cool stained glass, it's got amazing carvings, interesting statues, and it's sort of also kind of a temple because there are monks that go there and they give blessings.
And a great three-headed elephant on top.
And a giant three-headed elephant. And if you just sort of have a few hours and you just want to see something kind of weird and kind of cool, it's a neat place. I love taking visitors there when they come to see me in Thailand.
I did not know this one.
It's kind of strange, but I love it. It's fun.
Okay. So we've done some temples. We've done some museums. What else do we need to do in Thailand, in Bangkok?
Probably some shopping.
Okay.
Now, this sounds a bit strange, but when you're in Thailand, I really recommend visiting the shopping malls. Now, if you're American, you're thinking, oh, I don't want to see a shopping mall. This isn't the 80s. But Thai shopping malls are really something else, especially shopping malls like Siam Paragon or Central World, or the new one is called Icon Siam, which is located on the Thonburi side across the river from Bangkok, but you can get there on the boat. It's near the SkyTrain station. These malls are really just an absolutely bizarre experience because they're so over the top and so fancy. And Siam Paragon, for example, a shopping mall right in the middle of downtown, has a Rolls-Royce dealership inside of it.
As one does, sure.
Right, yeah, right. In Thailand, a lot of times people just hang out at the malls. I think it's mostly because they're convenient to get to and they're highly air-conditioned. People will go out and meet friends for coffee at the mall, or they'll just kind of walk around the mall, and they're really nice. They're very, very nice. A lot of restaurants are located inside the shopping malls, and so if you're feeling hot and tired, it's just kind of a great way to get out of the heat. So it sounds strange, but I kind of recommend experiencing the Thai shopping malls because they are different. They're different from what you might have in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you know my favorite Thai shopping experience. In fact, I think you live by my favorite Thai shopping experience. Right.
That was my next thing, is Chatuchak Market.
Okay.
Yeah, the world's largest outdoor market. And man, it's big. I always tell people that if you're going there and you see something that you like, you should buy it. Because if you decide you want to come back for it, you're never going to find it again. Chatuchak Market, it's a weekend market. It's open on Saturdays and Sundays, and I think it opens for a few hours on Friday night as well. They have everything. I mean, what can I say? They have decorations and art and souvenirs and food. Whatever you need, you can find it there. It is such a fun place just to get lost in for a few hours.
Well, and I'm not even sure if this is the same one that I was thinking of, because the one I'm thinking of is predominantly an indoor market where you could buy whatever you could possibly want, get a haircut, probably book travel, just do anything. And I'm not sure that it's out in I want to say in the eastern part of town.
Okay.
But it's not one of the newer malls, which are very, very modern.
Right.
This is more of a traditional one. And I'll have to look it up because I'm not even sure what the name of it was off the top of my head. I went with someone else.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think. I mean, it could have been, was it MBK Center? That's sort of a market/mall. There's Chatuchak Mall, which is at Chatuchak Market, which is also kind of like an indoor
possibly
market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the market, but it's like the air-conditioned part of the market.
Okay. But yeah, much more of a traditional, less modern,
right,
much more Thai experience.
Yes. I like to go there to buy souvenirs for people.
Yep.
It's one of those places that you don't really have anything specific in mind that you want to get. You just wander around until you see something that you like, because you just can't anticipate what you're going to find.
Well, and the one, actually it was Chatuchak. That it was where I'm looking at a map of it now, and I recognize it.
Okay, good.
So, and the other thing, of course, that you can find there as well as elsewhere in Thailand, which we've talked about recently on this show, is food.
Oh, yes.
And so there is a large section of food stalls and such at the market, not like a food court, but more like street food kind of food. It would be, I think, probably more accurate.
Right. And like I told your listeners on the last one, don't be afraid of the street food here in Bangkok. I've been here 7 years. I've never gotten sick from the street food. Have a look at where a lot of people are congregating, and you know it's probably going to be good. Be brave. Just try it. It is so good. Everything is so good.
And we talked about cost, and I sort of think of a Thai meal in Bangkok 4 years ago, last time I was there, is you can easily get a good meal for $3-4, another dollar if you get the smoothie.
Right, absolutely. It's not expensive.
There are, of course, higher end and more expensive places you can go.
Yeah, there's even higher end street food, and you've probably seen J-Fi before. If you've ever seen any kind of food documentary about Bangkok, you'll have seen J-Fi.
Okay.
She's this Thai celebrity, Jayfai. She's a little old lady who wears these giant goggles when she cooks, because she cooks with spicy chilies and this big wok. She's quite a character. She is famous for having some of the most famous street food. I believe she's Michelin starred now, and that's why she's so famous.
Star, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I think she's the first Michelin star street food chef in Thailand.
Okay. Well, and one of the first in the world, I think the first one being in Singapore, which we talked about on that most recent episode.
Right. So her restaurant is located in the Old Town.
Okay.
You have to kind of get there early if you want a spot. She's most famous for her crab omelets, which she stuffs with so much crab meat. It's incredible. It's not cheap for Thai food. Anyway, her crab omelet is like $30. Her yellow curry is like $50. It's definitely not cheap, but it is so good. And there's a reason that she's so famous. And there's a reason that she's in so many street food documentaries.
Interesting.
Yeah, she kind of made a name for herself by using high-quality ingredients and setting herself apart from others, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to go to the more high-end restaurant, I would say don't go to like a high-end Western-style restaurant. Check out the high-end street food. If you want to spend a little bit more money, go for the full experience. Another restaurant that I'd recommend is called Tip Samai. It's the most famous pad Thai restaurant in Bangkok. It's located pretty close to J-Fi. They claim to be one of the original pad Thai restaurants. They've been open for quite some time. And yeah, they're famous for their pad Thai and their freshly squeezed orange juice.
Okay. Well, and we just talked recently on the show that I did not know that pad Thai was relatively recently invented in my father's lifetime when they wanted to come up with a national dish.
Yeah, that was a time period where they were really trying to unify the country. That's when they changed the name from Siam to Thailand. They introduced pad Thai. They introduced a greeting, Sawat Di, which is like the Thai word for hello. Before that, people said, "Have you eaten yet?" which I think a lot of countries still say is their greeting. But the Prime Minister said, we need to have a greeting.
Though in Bangkok, actually.
It does, doesn't it? Sawat Di actually comes from the word swastika, which definitely means something
using,
different in
using
Asia.
the Buddhist
It's a
origin
Buddhist
of,
symbol,
of
right.
swastika, not the Nazi. Yep.
No, and this was before World War II.
Right.
So giving someone a Sawat Di is like giving them good luck.
Okay.
That's now the greeting in Thailand. But you're absolutely right that have you eaten yet is such a perfect greeting for Thailand because the city is all about food. No matter where you look, you're going to find amazing food. If you're not brave enough for the street food, I think you should be, but if you're not, check out a food court called Eat Thai. It's at a shopping mall called Central Embassy downtown.
Okay.
It's built kind of like a market, but they have Thai food from every corner of the country. And I really like it because you can try Southern Thai food or Northern Thai food or Northeastern Thai food, all of which are really different, and it's all in one place. And so it's a great way if you want to just sort of sample lots of different Thai dishes. It's wonderful.
Interesting. 8 million people in Bangkok, big city, lots of things to do. What are you
All the time.
intentionally skipping?
This might be controversial for a lot of backpackers. I definitely say skip Khao San Road.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, there's a road in Thailand called Khao San Road. It's sort of the Southeast Asia backpackers hub. It's a great place to go if you want to meet a bunch of American tourists.
Backpackers.
It's not a great place to go. Right. It's not a great place to go if you want to learn anything about Thai culture or eat any kind of Thai food. There's a McDonald's there. There's a Starbucks there. A lot of hotels, a lot of bars. I don't know why the guidebooks recommend it. I don't know. It's not a great place, in my opinion. I'm not a fan. It's loud. It's dirty. It's noisy. I was so disappointed one year. I was flying back to Thailand. And at the airport, I was just overhearing two guys talking. And one guy was telling this other guy, "Oh man, you're going to love Bangkok. I went there for a week last year. I spent the whole week at this place called Khao San Road. It was amazing." And in my mind, I was just like, oh man, this guy missed everything. He just met a lot of other Americans and Europeans and probably never saw any temples, never saw any palaces or museums.
And I would say that if you're looking for the Thai backpacker party scene in Bangkok, that's your street.
Yeah.
And this is not your podcast. I don't know why I don't know why you listen to this point because we probably bored you to death because that's not what we tend to talk about.
Right.
We actually stayed one time, I want to say about 4 blocks north of that. And I was looking to see if I could come up with the street name, and there was a much more interesting food scene there and without the party atmosphere and things like that. So there are definitely alternatives, even just very close by. I want to say it was just the other side of the canal.
Yeah, there are some cool areas nearby. It is located near the old town.
Yep.
But personally, I'm not a fan of it. You can never find a metered taxi there. They always try to charge you exorbitant amounts. It's the type of place where if you take a photograph of like some street food, they'll charge you for it. It's definitely a place for backpackers. Right. And if that's your thing, that's great. It's not my thing.
If you're looking for the party scene in Bangkok and you're a backpacker and that's what you're looking for, go to Khao San Road.
But if you're looking for other places to get great food or even to get some drinks, I can recommend a really cool restaurant called Saxophone. It's sort of a jazz club, I guess. You can get a good beer there and listen to some live music every night. If you are into that, I say it's a lot more fun than Khao San Road. Okay. A lot more sort of chill and laid back.
Interesting.
That's my alternative recommendation.
Thai jazz, all right.
It's great, yeah.
What else should people see or do or eat in Bangkok?
Just eat everything. Eat everything that you can. Try the Thai tea. The chai yen, Thai iced tea.
Which is the Thai tea has the coconut milk in it. Sweet tea.
Yeah, it's that sort of orange looking iced tea. Yeah, really sweet. Very, very sweet.
It's a dessert, really.
It really is, yeah.
It really is. I'm not complaining about it. I like it, but yeah, it's very sweet.
Yeah, so definitely eat everything. Eat everything you can. Just try whatever looks good. Just be brave enough to order it. And just sample it, because you probably will not be disappointed, no matter what. To see, other than that, I would say, check out the Old Town. Just walk around. One of my favorite things to do is just take a bus. I like to take the bus. I know a lot of tourists probably might not feel like doing that. But just get into the Old Town and just sort of let yourself get lost, because you're going to be quite safe walking around. You can discover all sorts of old palaces, old temples. Bangkok, I think a lot of people don't think of it as a pedestrian city, but I like walking around. I think that you can see a lot, especially if you are a photographer, if you enjoy taking pictures and seeing some really sort of unseen small neighborhoods. It's so much fun to just let yourself get a little bit lost. Just Just know where the nearest MRT station is or the nearest SkyTrain station, and then just kind of wander.
Well, and these days with smartphones, that's not hard to know.
There's another palace called Pakgad Palace, which actually means cabbage or cabbage patch. It's not a palace like people might necessarily think of. It's more of a, I guess it was sort of like a manor home for like a minor prince in the past.
Okay.
But it's a cool traditional Thai house, and it's a wooden stilt house, and it's got some beautiful land around it as well. Definitely worth going there if you have the time. But yeah, definitely, I would say there's dozens of museums, there's hundreds of temples, there's so much to see that, I mean, I've been here 7 years and I'm still discovering new things all the time. I mean, every week I'm stumbling across something I've never seen before.
Well, and that reminds me, there's something that I wanted to recommend which you have not been to yet, and that's the Dam Nguyen Saduak floating market, which is a day trip. There are a couple different day trips that you can do from Bangkok. I think some of the traditional ones are this floating market. I think there's a couple of them. There's also the going up to the old capitals, the ancient capitals that predated Bangkok is another real common day trip from the area.
Yeah, you can take the train to Ayutthaya, the former capital, for about 50 cents. You can rent a bicycle for about 30 cents. And then just bike around the ancient ruins. Very fun. And I know you have done a podcast about Ayutthaya.
Yes. Long time ago.
Yeah, but no, I have never been to the floating market. And it's kind of surprising, I know, because I've been here so long. It's one of those things that's still on my list of things I'd love to do. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I have been to a floating market called Ampawa, which is another day trip. It's sort of the other direction. I'm sure it's similar anyway. But floating markets are fun. In the past, it was a very sort of traditional way that people would get their food and their produce. Nowadays, it's a cool way to kind of see what life was like in the past.
All right. Anything else we want to say about Thailand that you should or shouldn't do before we start to wrap this up?
There's one more thing that I would recommend, actually, which I kind of forgot about.
Okay.
Is the parks. Bangkok has a lot of parks. It's a very green city.
Okay.
And there's Lumpini Park, there's Chatuchak Park, there's Rotphai Park, where you can sort of bike around. And if you are sort of feeling tired from the city and tired from the crowds and things like that, just get to one of these parks. They're beautiful. They're beautifully maintained. Highly recommended.
Now, the one thing I'm trying to place in my memory is we went to a puppet show, a well-known puppet show in an area with a lot of canals, and I'm drawing a complete blank where it is.
Yeah, I think that would be the Artist's House.
Yes, that sounds right.
Right, the Artist's House. So yeah, Thai puppetry is a really cool tradition. Now, was it shadow puppetry, or was it like, what was it like?
So
that's another thing I haven't done yet.
Puppeteers are dressed in black, wearing black masks, and holding marionette puppets out in front of them. They're not hidden, but they're not the feature of it. And I'd say most of the stories that I could tell, it was in Thai, so I was not getting the gist of it, but they look to be very similar to some of the Hindu, like the monkey god sort of stories that I'm familiar with a little bit from Hindu mythology.
Right, which actually reminds me as well, if you are interested in that kind of thing, check out the Thai opera, the Kon, the masked opera. And it's those stories as well. Stories from, in Hindu mythology, it's called the Ramayana. In Thailand, it's called the Ramakien. It's the same story, basically. It's the national epic of Thailand. But yeah, the stories of the Monkey King and the ogres and Rama. And
yep, exactly.
If you go to the opera, it's just like that. You can see people wear the masks and they do the dancing, and it's really cool. Really, really cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
As we start to think about wrapping this up, the best day of the year to be in Bangkok?
Best day of the year to be in Bangkok is during the Songkran Festival.
Okay.
Which is the traditional Thai New Year. Happens in April 13th. It's the hottest part of the year. And traditionally in this festival, it would be a time in which you would take water and you would wash the hands of your elders and you would wash your Buddha statues. And it is that. It still is that. But it's also turned into something a lot bigger. And now it's turned into a giant 3-day citywide water gun fight.
And take appropriate precautions with your cameras.
Right. They will sell little waterproof bags that you can hang around your neck. Everybody wears Hawaiian shirts. And they close off certain parts of the city to traffic. They just completely shut them down, and it's just a free-for-all. You bring your water gun, and they provide water, and you just have a giant 3-day water fight. if you're not interested in that, I would say it's
Do not
definitely
be
the
in town
worst
that day,
time to be in town because you're not exempt. It doesn't matter if you're
Right.
in a business suit, you are fair game. If you are on the street that day, you are fair game and you will get wet. And so you just have to have a good attitude about it. I know a lot of expats try to get out of town during that time because they say, oh, I've done it 10 times already. I want to stay dry, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
So Songkran Festival, the Thai New Year, happens in April every year, and it's a blast. Really is.
Best rooftop bar.
There's a lot of debate about that. The most famous one is the one from The Hangover 2. I forget the name of it.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite one is, actually, it's not a really tall rooftop, actually. It's called the Skytrain Jazz Club.
Okay.
It's maybe only the third or fourth story, and it's very local, very traditional kind of just Thai-style bar. But it's located right near downtown, and it's a very fun place to be because it doesn't feel super fancy. It just feels kind of like a hidden spot. It's right at the Victory Monument SkyTrain station. There's one that's called the Red Sky. It's at Central World. It's really tall. I don't know if it's quite the tallest one. One is called Vertigo and Moon Bar. It's maybe one of the more famous ones. It's kind of small, but it's really high up and a little bit expensive, but if you're going there, it's completely worth it, especially if you can get there by sunset and see the sunset over the city. It's a beautiful experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your best quintessential Bangkok day.
Well, mine might be a bit different than other people's because I'm really into the culture and really into the history. My quintessential Bangkok day would be at the Wat Saket, the Golden Mount. I would definitely start there because, as I said, it's my favorite place in town. I would take the riverboat to get there, climb up to the top of the temple. After that, I'd probably go to the amulet market just to sort of maybe take some photographs and see the Buddhist culture. And I would walk around. I love exploring. I think that Bangkok is a city that's all about exploring. I would just say, hit the street, hit the pavement, and walk. And allow yourself to get lost. Have some local food, wherever it is. The smaller, the better. The smaller the shop or the stand, the better. And just experience it. And then, once you're good and lost, you can navigate back to the SkyTrain or even just grab a metered taxi and get back to the SkyTrain and call it a day. But I say just explore. I say that's what Bangkok is all about.
Any particular app I ought to have on my phone?
Yeah. Grab.
Okay.
If you're in Southeast Asia, Grab is kind of like Uber, but oftentimes you can get real taxis that way. It's a lot easier than trying to explain to a driver where you want to go.
Yep.
Yeah, and also you don't have to worry about carrying the right amount of cash. Thailand in general is a very cash-based society. Very few places take credit cards. But if you use Grab, you can put your credit card in there and you can just pay just like with Uber. So I would say definitely get Grab. It will save you a lot of time. Google Translate comes in handy so much, especially if you meet someone that doesn't really speak English. You can just speak right into the app and it will translate it for you and they can speak back. And nowadays that Google Translate has the feature where you can take a photograph of like a menu and it will translate the text. It's become so handy. So it's allowed me to order food even when I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Other than that, I guess the map app, just any kind of Apple Maps or Google Maps to get around.
So you can get unlost again. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
You were standing in the prettiest spot in Bangkok. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
Yeah, I think that you are standing at the top of the Golden Mount at sunset.
Okay.
You can see the sun setting 360 degrees around you. Bangkok in the evening time, as the sky kind of turns orange. You might know that I like sunsets, because I think my last recommendation was a sunset as well.
It was indeed.
But like I said, I've said it like 3 times now. It's my favorite place in the city. And I think it's just beautiful. When you're up there, you can hear the bells ringing and the chimes ringing. You can hear the monks chanting. You can just see all the way across the city, all the way from the Grand Palace to the tallest skyscrapers.
Excellent. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Bangkok.
Just never, even after 7 years, this is quite a general thing, just never knowing completely what's going on. Part of it's the language barrier, part of it's the culture barrier. I think as a tourist, you would experience this even more. Not a day goes by that I don't see something and just question what on earth is happening there. The other day I was walking down my street and I was passing, I guess it was a restaurant. It kind of looked like a mechanic's shop. And there were these guys sitting out front of it and they had like a butane torch and they had a bunch of pig's legs. And they were, I don't know, maybe roasting the pig's legs with the torch. But it didn't really look like a restaurant. It looked like they were maybe fixing motorbikes. And I just can't imagine. I guess they were preparing them to be cooked. I don't know. It was just such a bizarre thing. And this is just the type of thing that you encounter in Thailand. Just stuff that you just can't fathom what's happening. I think that part of the culture shock is part of the fun. Part of being somewhere that's so different from what you might be used to.
Sure.
Bangkok is just completely different than North America or Europe or Australia, something that has a similar culture that a lot of times you just feel like you're a complete outsider. And if you can just embrace that, it's so much fun. In Thai language, there's a phrase that's Mai Pen Rai, and it means don't worry. Just relax, don't worry. And I think that when you're coming to Thailand, just embrace that. Embrace Mai Pen Rai, because you're not going to know what's going on. You're not going to be able to understand everything. And I think that's fun. So I can't think of one thing in specific, maybe because I've been here for so long that some of the things that I think are normal now might still be strange to others, but just the general atmosphere of Bangkok.
Excellent. And if you had to summarize Bangkok, which you do, in just 3 words, what 3 words are you going to use?
Well, royal, number one,
Yep.
for the number of palaces, and even sometimes you'll encounter members of the royal family. Sometimes the roads will be closed down and the royal motorcade will be going past. You'll see that fairly often in Bangkok. You'll see yellow and blue and purple flags all over the place. Those are the personal standards of the royal family and the flags that people will put up to honor the king and the queen and the princess. Number 2 is religion, because Thailand has, like I said, 400 temples. It's got a Catholic cathedral. It's got beautiful mosques, mostly Buddhism, of course. But it's interesting to note that in Thailand, the king is considered the defender of religions, plural.
Oh, I did not know
think
that.
is
Okay.
quite nice, yeah. And the last one, of course, is food. Because if you think of Bangkok, you just think of food. It's unavoidable. Yeah, so royal, religion, and food.
Excellent. Our guest again is Michael Desrosiers. And Michael
Yes,
is
sir.
another podcaster. We mentioned it last time, but we'll mention again the Ear Goggles podcast at eargogglespodcast.com. What's the latest thing you've been talking about in the Ear Goggles podcast?
Right, we just did an episode about our favorite travel tips. I'm a big traveler, and my co-host, James, is also a big traveler. And we did an episode of the show where we share some of the things that have gone wrong when we've traveled and what we've learned from those experiences.
Okay.
And so, I don't know, your listeners might be interested in that. If they have their own stories, we invite them to sort of write into us and tell us their travel advice too, because everyone can always learn more. We can always learn more tips.
Michael, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you, sir. I'm really glad to be
Not very long
here.
from your first appearance to talk about Bangkok.
Well, maybe sometime in the future I can come back and talk about something else in Thailand. I'd be happy to.
First, a thanks to all of the patrons of the show who help support the show, and especially to those who came and hung out with me on Zoom for our monthly patron call last Saturday. I heard from Jeffrey this week, who is Houston proud. His from Houston was a little disappointed with the episode that we did. There were definitely some things that he felt that we missed, including 4 different places to eat: Burns Barbecue, Killen's, Tejas Chocolate, and Pinkerton. And in terms of things to do, we missed the street art and the Buffalo Bayou, and particularly a kayak trip on the Buffalo Bayou and George Bush Park. Jeffrey also said, not the prettiest city in the world or even in Texas, but it's home. What I love the best is the food. We have so much good food that's not Tex-Mex or barbecue. Recently, a Malaysian place opened near me, and we cannot get enough. There's also something special about the people here. Like so many places, my family flooded during Harvey, and the community was there all the way. Also, during the recent unrest, Houston has been relatively quiet. Love the show. And thanks so much, Jeffrey, and thanks for keeping us honest. I'll put Jeffrey's suggestions in the show notes. I've been talking about Amateur Traveler affiliates, amateurtraveler.com/affiliates, places that will give me a cut of anything you book through them if you use the link on that particular page. This may actually be a good time to book some travel, and it seems odd because we're in an out-of-control pandemic as I record this, but on the other hand, we've had 2 vaccines announced that seem like they're going to be coming out here in early 2021, and there are some really good deals right now. I saw some interesting deals from both Scott's Cheap Flights in terms of flights this week, and also saw some great deals from Intrepid Travel. So check out both of those at amateurtraveler.com/affiliates. And with that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com and tell us what is your favorite Bangkok street food. And thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more cathedral. I got to sit in one more cafe.